Yesterday, the community of Portage Lake came together in honor of a police dog who gave his life protecting the town. A new memorial bench and marker were unveiled for Canine Preacher, ensuring his sacrifice will not be forgotten. Megan Wassikin was there.
In Portage Lake's Veterans Memorial Park, a new granite bench and marker now stand as tribute to Canine Preacher, a 4-year-old Belgian Malinois who gave his life in the line of duty.
We are so honored to have as many of the law enforcement officials here representing all of the agencies who had responded to protect the little town of Portage Lake, Maine.
On February 3rd, 2025, police responded to a domestic violence incident that escalated into a standoff. When the suspect ran, Canine Preacher was sent to help apprehend him. In pursuit, Preacher was shot. He was rushed by ambulance to the nearest vets, but despite hours of emergency surgery, he passed away the next day. Alongside other law officials was Sergeant Jonathan Russell.
I'd been his handler for 2.5 years at the time the incident here unfolded.
Russell and Preacher joined forces in 2023, serving the Greater Southern Field Troop area in the Maine State Police.
He was what I would classify as a once-a-lifetime working dog, by far the best dog that I've ever handled.
On the day of the unveiling, just as on the day of Preacher's death, Sergeant Russell stood shoulder to shoulder with fellow first responders to honor a colleague and a friend.
I'm just very grateful to see this community embrace the sacrifice that Preacher made and to see his memory live on within this community for essentially eternally.
This is not the first memorial put up for Preacher, but according to those involved, having the memorial in the same town as Preacher's last mission is a lasting tribute to the sacrifices made.
And that was Megan Wassikin reporting.